Hi, I'm Chelsea.
Hi, I'm Alexis.
And we're going to talk about Zim.
All right, parent-teacher night. We are treated to both, at the beginning, a sign of how terrifyingly totalitarian the school is, that they tape every minute of the children's days. And I mean, that's also focusing on Zim, that particular camera. So
there's more than one.
There's more than one.
Oh, of course.
They had the perfect camera angle for that. Also, we get to see Zim's birth. I love the tube that his fetus has been raised in. They crack it open. They don't, unscrew it open to reuse. They just crack it like an egg.
Yeah, and we also get to see that it was kind of just a lifeless lump. Then they attach the pack, and then he is awake and able to kind of move the body. Also, I found it pretty funny that he's hugging Miss Bitters after that. Because I just am imagining Zim having an awkward moment of being, for some reason, thin, rail-like people. I just feel so comfortable around them.
Also fun to remember that though concepts like love and friendship really have no place in a show like Invader Zim, there is a place for the reminder when love has been beaten out of a person. When years of training have, looks like Irkens are naturally predisposed to love the things around them. I mean, this baby Irken, this Smeet, knows that the robot arm is cold and unfeeling, and yet it expresses a child's filial love. And the first words that are said to an awoken Smeet are, "Welcome to life, Irken child, report for duty."
Yeah, that there's a warrior race.
Yep. Alright, a pretty clear homage to Clockwork Orange in this episode.
Alright, so we have a bunch of the TVs making jokes. This is something that Jonan does in several of his other comics and stuff, to make really exaggerated commercials or previews for movies or whatever the case may be. The aspirin commercial where a guy breaks his spine and falls to the ground, spasming.
Frothing at the mouth.
The diarrhea one, all those ones that are just over... Wait, go ahead.
The diarrhea one, the letters at the end were supposed to be brown, and Standards and Practices said no.
So they made them red.
Just so much worse. It's so much worse. This man has gone from diarrhea to horrific amounts of blood in his stool. He likes burritos, but burritos eviscerate his colon.
That's the truth. So there's things like that, but I think in general this is just a good measure of what's to come in terms of what we show as their television programming. I mean, obviously We've seen the monkey already, so that I've never found monkey jokes funny, but that's just me. If you like monkey jokes, then great. I'm glad for you.
Yeah, I'm not big on monkey jokes, but you could have used a different animal there, and the Crazy Monkey Show joke would still hold up.
Well, I mean, there's a later one with it, too. But in general, just, there's the monkey standing there. You establish that Gur loves TV. I could say that Gur is honestly devolving very, very quickly. At the beginning of the show, he's not awesome. I mean, the first thing we really see him do is do his little, I don't know, or let's sing the Doom song, whatever. The point is, he's really more or less harmless. But by this point in the show, we saw the makeup thing. We saw him leaving the windows and doors open. I think that by the next couple of episodes, he's become obsessed with consumer culture, because probably what he does all day long is information gather from commercials.
Oh my god, you're right. He actually has a character reason to be
obsessed with tacos, wanting stuff all the time, because he's an information gathering robot. And all he does is sit and watch TV.
That's it in a nutshell. That's the crux. Everybody says, I love Gur, he's so random. But that's actually where his randomness lies, is that he is snagging lowest common denominator pop culture American consumerism, which is incredibly easy for us as middle-class Americans to identify with and to find funny and inviting. Yeah, talk about tacos. I fucking love tacos.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also that short attention span, 30 seconds of commercial sort of thing. And you also do have to note that he has a giant wall of TVs, not just one TV. And sometimes he's just watching the one TV. But there are various times where he's watching the wall of TVs all at once, which is not going to do much for your coherence on what you are intaking.
I don't really remember, like, I know there's another episode where he brings out a bunch of screens to watch again, but I'll keep an eye out for that. How many TVs a girl will watch at once?
What I would say, though, is that even though Gur was never a properly functioning robot, he never was one that was going to be doing a lot of helpful things. He quickly becomes obsessed with consumer culture, with Earth culture. I know it's totally a joke, but later you see him at a club, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he just... I think because Zim is so independent, he probably is also both protecting himself from Gur's f***ups, but also not teaching Gur anything he needs to know. And it's pretty obvious Gur does his own thing almost all the time in the show.
Yeah, and that's something that I think kind of decreases as the show goes later on. Like, Gur spends a fair amount of time in the early episodes just doing his thing, but he becomes far more
attached at the hip to Zim.
Yeah, and destructive later on.
Yeah, and I'd argue that goes with the lack of direction that he's getting.
Yeah. Once he's grown bored with consuming as much Earth culture as he can, Zim's doing interesting things.
Yeah. All right. Bitters has all of the parents around her, and she says to them, when you were my students, I said you would amount to nothing, and you did. You amounted to nothing. Mm-hmm. And while it's pretty obvious that she's pretty old, I think it would be an easy way for them to transition into saying, like, she's been there forever.
Yeah.
She's taught all of them. She taught their parents, you know. That sort of forever.
Yeah, it's a very good thing to note. You know, and good to notice, again, we've got Membrane as the absentee father who's more defined by his work than the kid. You can tell that he tries to make time for them. He doesn't try hard enough.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, the thing is, the episode before this where in Nanozim, he gives Dib the ship, and he was in the house, but Dib was dying on the couch. And I mean, he didn't yell for Dad or anything like that, so whatever. But I think if he did, nothing would happen. And so I think that Dib's just knows that that's not going to help him.
And I mean, not to go back too far to Nanozim, Dib didn't even think about calling his dad.
Nope.
He thought about utilizing his father's resources, but he didn't know how to use the controls. And it makes sense for his pride to say that he didn't want to ask Gaz for help.
Yeah.
She's his little sister. You don't want your little sister showing you up. But he doesn't even consider his father
as an asset.
An asset. That's, oh man, that's so sad.
It really is. Dib, you lead a depressing life, and we're going to just watch it devolve from here.
Already, Dib is genre savvy enough to have realized that nobody saw the crazy Zim stuff going on. He's had experience with this. Zim is not the first thing he's tried to showcase to people, and he understands that that is what he should be expecting from his life.
Yeah.
He has enough hope to ask.
To try. We were talking about antagonist versus protagonist in this one. It's a little bit more muddy, I'd say, because, I mean, it is mainly Zim protagonisting right here.
Oh, yeah.
But by now, we've seen enough of Dib, and we had that hostile takeover of Dib's body. Mm-hmm. So by now, we can kind of say, even if we don't want Zim to get caught right here, that you can be on Dib's side. It's possible for an audience member to be on Dib's side.
Yeah, they've definitely opened the door by this point for you to start choosing sides.
Yeah, who you want to support.
Yeah, your team's Zim and Dib, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's interesting. This episode by itself, though,
definitely a Zim, yeah.
You want Zim to win, otherwise, Dib is the one who has the most to gain and Zim the most to lose. And
yeah, in those cases, it's generally.
Yeah.
And then, in the end, we see Dib get the punishment of anyone who is in the wrong. As most shows would set up a character trying to hide something or other, the character that's trying to expose them, but eventually gets karmic justice laid out upon them. And this is one that ends like that, where Dib tosses his punch in frustration, and then we see Bitters obviously about to enact a terrible fate upon Dib.
Yeah, and that's a thing that keeps going with Bitters, is that we don't want to know what Dib's punishment is, because it's left in the fate worse than death area, as it should be.
Alright, so Walk of Doom. We see Gur running around the house without any supervision, which I have noted before is probably not good. Considering that what Zim's doing right now would probably be an even better time for Gur to be standing there and knowing what he's doing. But anyhow, here's something that I want to note that I don't really know if it's reading too much into it or not, but Zim said that he took the technology of Gur and is upgrading it to make it better. And at least what we've seen of the Tallest and what we kind of know of the Irken race, that they steal a lot of their technology from other races, not many of them are very inventive, as we should know. Mm-hmm. So the fact that Zim that might be actually something that he actually does have over the other Irkens.
But we something to think about. I mean, Tak builds an intergalactic spaceship out of garbage, so she's incredibly resourceful. She's like Iron Man levels of that. I'm wondering if we see any of the other invaders make equipment of their own, because I'm not sure.
I mean, Zim brought a lot of tech down, but there are multiple instances, I believe, of him not just repairing technology that he already has, but taking tech and improving it, or even inventing his own stuff, which I think is par for the course of a show like this, so I'm not going to say that is anything more than just writer convenience, necessarily, but it is something fun to just speculate upon, that, maybe one of the reasons why Zim is so destructive to his missions and the other Irkens is because not only does he not really follow orders that well, he also probably takes some into account on his own. Like, maybe he upgrades things and changes stuff that wouldn't really suit what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and because he was assigned to a weapons R&D team, you can kind of understand the logic behind it of, he's good at destroying things, let's channel that energy, let's let him work on learning to destroy things, let's use that for us.
Also, if he's in R&D, he's that does mean they noted that he's good at inventing.
Yeah. But, well, maybe he hadn't been, but now he is.
Yeah.
And hindsight is 20/20, and hindsight says you took this guy who already had a knack for destroying things, and you taught him how to make explosives. That episode even shows you taught him how to create life forms that kill and destroy matter. I mean, he's breeding laser weasels, or he's growing them on a plant or something because they need to ripen.
Yeah. So in general, it's not even just that he's doing experiments to learn about Earth or using technology that he already has, which he does do, but he does seem to be creating and upgrading upon his already established tech. So that's something to note about him. I don't think Red and Purple do that.
Yeah. Definitely not. Okay, so just count for reoccurring elements. Scary Monkey Show has been called by name. We've seen it twice. And the Chihuahua has shown up.
I think we've seen the Scary Monkey Show 3 times. But yeah, the Chihuahua just showed up.
Also, gay couple in the background of a shot. I mean, staring adoringly at each other. That's cool.
Also, super subtle and funny, because I bet if anyone noticed them, not put it on there.
This is 2001. Wouldn't have made it.
Not on Nickelodeon.
After Zim learns that the guidance chip is gone, and Gur is eating the cupcake, and Gur is crying, Zim takes very flagrant pity on Gur, saying, me being angry will get us nowhere. That is a very rational statement, and it's moments like this that make me feel like Zim getting dumber as the show progresses is not the writers learning how to write Zim, but Zim actively getting stupider and less competent. Just his pack is degenerating because he has a defective pack. That's why Zim doesn't work well. He's a defective unit. And
I like the theory of him deteriorating, just corroding.
This is rational behavior from Zim. This is him keeping himself and his outbursts under control. You're going to see that maybe 2 more times, and one of them is because of Gur, because he has a soft spot for Gur.
I was going to say, due to our world and setting, I think it's pretty funny that when he calls the bus driver bus slave, it does not faze her in any way, shape, or form. All she says is, you need to pay money, this isn't free. And I think that honestly, it suits our world as well. I'm pretty sure that anybody driving a bus in the city would probably basically take the insult bus slave and not even bat an eye, say anything, or even try to argue.
Yeah, Zim really calls a spade with some of the jobs on this show. Like, yes, as minimum wage workers, just call them slave.
Oh, considering his race, that actually makes complete sense.
Oh, yes.
He should think everybody who works in service or in a non-warrior or civilian job is enslaved by the other people.
Yep.
That's very suiting to the setting of him. As a further continuation of the fact that the body is not him and the pack is, maybe when he says, I have to wait for the skin to grow back on my eyeballs, maybe his pack repairs him slowly over time. Maybe not as quick as like a werewolf type, just got cut, regenerate, but if he sits for a few hours, he'll, especially if he sleeps maybe.
I don't know if that's a pack thing. Zim is about to also mention, so I'll just get it out of the way fast, that his eyes have been upgraded. The Irken body is genetically engineered. There doesn't seem to be any, like, actual reproduction going on. Everything is clean, mechanical, streamlined, and we already know that there's metal bits inside to connect him to the pack. But yeah, there's like optic implants or something in his eyes. I mean, he has a self-destruct button in his arm.
Yeah.
There's stuff all over Zim and inside and everywhere that is just unnatural.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense, that even though the body part of him is in some ways biological, that it's probably more like cyborg type, part biological, part electrical, because that way you could get the impulses from the electrical pack through all of the stuff in the arms and legs and eyes. And during this chase scene is the first time we see Zim's spider legs coming out of his pack. It's really the first time we see the pack do anything actually action-y that is helping Zim out. So it's pretty fun to see. It actually happens without really any fanfare, but for something so weird and kind of integral to Zim's abilities is very funny to just, him and Gur are trying to get up the stairs, and Gur sucks at stairs, and he just spider legs the out of there.
Yeah, and I mean, when Zim breaks out his spider legs, I don't want to say that there must be something that gives him strength or something, but as written, he seems to be a bit more of a badass whenever he pulls out those legs. He wins fights more often. You get the feeling he's gonna kick a lot more ass. Those are always a symbol that he's gonna do better. I don't know.
I'd say that's just more of him taking the stealth off, if you will.
Yeah, that's true.
Much like if you're talking like a World of Darkness game, something like that, where your character is out in public, they're not going to use their vulgar magic or whatever will be really obvious to the people, even though transforming into a giant werewolf and tearing off a door would be useful. They're going to want to try and pick the lock instead. But case Zim's valuing his disguise, obviously first he ran and closed the door behind him, and then as soon as they were out of the sight of the guards, he was like, okay, turning on the not stealth, now use actual power mode.
Yeah.
And I'd say that's a pretty natural choice.
And naturally, Zim ends up in Mexico. And Jonan wanted, I think the Carne sign or somewhere, and it was going to say Mexico. And Nickelodeon went, you can't do that. And he went, my name is Jonan Vasquez. If anybody can make that joke.
But what's so bad about making it Mexico? Just the fact that there's rats dancing in the street isn't anything. There were rats in the city that they were in before. Like, if it was like, oh, the city they were in before is clean and beautiful, and now they're in Mexico and it's terrible. Actually, the meat looked way cleaner in Mexico than it did in the city that they were in.
You're right.
I am right. And you know what? The people looked happy in Mexico. You had a little girl smiling, selling gum, and a dude who had a rose in his mouth dancing. If that's a bad depiction of Mexico, I don't think so at all. In this world, this is like, Mexico's the promised land.
Yeah, like, I like that headcanon that, you know, America is just this
filth hole.
Rancid filth hole.
Where everyone hates each other. It's desolate, stark, and terrible.
But we really don't know about the rest of the world. The rest of the world could be doing just fine. I mean, Mexico, they're having a blast.
Well, clearly, like, from those guys. They look like they have it pretty good compared to them. It was bright. It was pretty clean. It was full of people who were pretty happy to be there.
Yeah.
Except for Zim, who definitely wasn't happy to be there.
Zim's on Earth.
He's never happy to be there.